Well, my parents raised me as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and I realized from a very young age that some of the things that they had been teaching me there weren't really lining up with some of the things that I was reading in the Bible. Tonight I'm actually telling my parents I'm getting baptized, and this may be the last time I get to talk to them. I don't know. I'm Savvy, and this is part of my story. My parents raised me as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and so as I got older, I started noticing that because I wasn't as devoted or as into it as a lot of other people were, I was excluded from a lot of things. I finally reached a point where I just didn't have almost anybody, and so my mom signed me up for a homeschool science team, and that's where I met the guy who would later become my fiance. So he started telling me about his church and about the things that they did there and about what they believed. And I started thinking to myself, wow, that sounds a lot more in line with the Bible and a lot more comforting and a lot nicer and a lot more like a loving environment than what I've been growing up in. I still remember when I first decided to leave, I had talked to my mom about it for a while, and I had been talking to her saying, I don't think I want to be here anymore. And my dad kind of picked up on it, but I hadn't really flat out told him yet. So he told me that if I wanted to leave, I had to talk to the elders of the congregation and told them that that's what I wanted to do. And they announced in front of the entire congregation of all of my friends and family that I was no longer Jehovah's Witness, and all my friends pretty much disowned me after that and never really spoke to me again. And since I hadn't really had a whole lot of friends outside of that, I just was all alone. I didn't have any friends, and my dad didn't want me going to another church until I turned 18, so that was a year that I was just by myself, just me and the Bible and God. During that year that I was on my own and just didn't really have a community, didn't really have a church, Will, who I was starting to date at the time, now that I was out of there, said that he would call me every single night and read the Bible with me and say a prayer with me until I was able to go to church again. And he did every single night for a solid year, did not miss a single one. Baptism was something that was not a foreign idea to me. That was something that the Jehovah's Witnesses did, but it was a lot more about being baptized into the church than about being baptized into God's community. And so I remember going to my baptism orientation, and I was talking to Cindy Chavez about it, and I was just thinking about it more. And the more I talked to her about it, and the more I was kind of talking through it with God and kind of talking through it with myself, I just kind of came to the realization, like, this is a public declaration of my love for God. That is what this is. And if I am comfortable enough and proud enough to present this to the public, I am proud enough to present this to my dad, regardless of what may happen because of it. And so I called him on the phone, and I remember I just like rambled, and it was like, so here's what I'm doing, I'm getting baptized. And it got really, really quiet, and he just said, okay. And I was sitting here thinking, okay, that's it, okay. And so he said, I hope you understand that you're making a really big mistake. And he said, but everyone just has to make their own mistakes and go through life. I just really hope that this doesn't mess up the rest of your life. And he said that he was really disappointed. And so I remember just trying so hard not to cry on that phone call. Like, I knew that I was willing to tell him and willing to say, this is my decision, this is what I'm doing, this is something I'm proud of. And even if he did kick me out, I still had a spiritual father, my heavenly Father, taking care of me. And he was going to make sure I had everything I needed, whatever happened. But he called me the very next day, and he said, and I realized that this is the next logical step on your spiritual journey. And even if it's not where I thought you'd be, I'm still proud of you for making this decision. And that just blew my mind that he said that. I thought he was just calling to lay it on thicker, that he was disappointed. And I remember just crying tears of joy as he was saying that, because that was all I wanted to hear, was that he was proud of me. I've always been super duper close with my parents, no matter what I've been through, and that remains the same. I'm still super duper close with both of my parents, especially my dad too. We spend a lot of time talking about God together, me and my dad actually, and just like talking about the different views that we both have and how they line up with each other sometimes, and it's really wonderful, and I still feel like my family accepts me after all of this. In terms of me and God moving forward, I mean, there's always going to be a few steps back every now and then, just celebrating Him, still continually moving forward.